when we get the new library, but for now. No, it'll be on the same side, like delivery and
Delivery and the drop-offs on the same side because they want to hit that room, the work room, just call it that, where they can catalog and check things in.
On this roadway, it shows 16-foot width coming in. Could we narrow up the exit to the width of the vehicle and then put no left turn? That will eliminate anybody coming in that way, or one way. No, that's about.
It's a one-way drive.
But no left turn on the entrance back under the main road. And then narrow it up
Okay, I see what you're saying.
from 16 feet to
North Drive, no left turn, because that'd be your outside.
no, yeah, outlaw. You'd have no left turn. You'd have to exit with the flow of traffic, or however it could be configured.
It could be no left turn going in either, and they can make a right turn to go in, and they have to make a right turn to go out. Now you're.
So we do that at right angle. That's some traffic control stuff.
They're entering on the south and exiting on the north?
Entering on the south and exiting on the north, yes.
But a traffic person would review this too, right? And make sure that it's okay to move that.
No, it's not.
Well, yeah, I mean, Rosines did it, and they kind of base it off their experience and stuff, so that's all I can answer for that.
On your print, on the north driveway, it says proposed entrance, and that's why I was under the assumption you were going to have traffic come in there, flow through, and then exit to the south.
No, it's entrance to the south and exit to the north. Because in order, if you're driving, drop the books off. Yeah.
So you want to change it on the print. The print we have here.
The one on the north says proposed entrance.
Oh,
That's
doesn't
why.
say exit.
That says that.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. If we're talking about having a traffic study person look at that, they look at the whole thing to see whether it warrants a stoplight or anything at that corner?
Well, that may be.
Yeah.
One that was related to the other, but in terms of what thresholds, what warrants lead to a new light, it's totally separate.
Well, that may help things too. Stop for a light there, but like what the mayor's saying, by having it turned one way, they're not crossing that center lane to get back out there.
I do a lot of traffic studies and work with City of Grand Rapids. I don't think a signal would need the warrant code required here based on your flow of traffic versus side street traffic. But you could look at doing a traffic impact study to see what kind of turn movements are coming out of that one way, and then you have a better idea of what impact it's going to have to the traffic out there. Or look at the crashes that are out there now, and you could get a better idea. You could have a better idea of what impact that's going to have based on the volume that you're going to see throughout the day. There's charts for heading left turn lanes. There's different things you can do with little noses to make it so that traffic has to turn a certain way. So that if that's something that is a real concern with this one way, I would recommend the traffic impact study to probably answer all your questions.
There's still on-street parking then also?
There is some in that area currently, but I would think some of that would have to be eliminated.
Yeah, so that'll take up 2 of the parking spots just like going in and out.
And then 15 driveway cuts there now.
Yeah, where that out is going, right?
Oh, is that what
Is
the
that out going where the existing one is?
Yes.
So here's even existing right out of the
Mr. Chairman, I understand, their concerns with trying to get the interior to work and the drop off and everything. Don't don't blame it at all for that. Our job though is to look out and see what impact this will have on future decisions. That's my job. And just so you know, you really can't, even though it's a PUD, you're going to have a very difficult time differentiating between a public use and a private business development. It becomes self-serving. And the courts don't really look kindly upon those sorts of things. So the next business that comes in and wants to put a loading zone in the front yard with a tractor trailer, you're going to be hard pressed to. I'm just thinking about the precedent you're setting. And once again, it is a PUD, gives you a little bit of flexibility, but allowing loading, unloading in the front yard, curb cut distances, some of the things you're looking at here could pop up in commercial developments, and you may find yourself having to deal with things that you never anticipated, but you allowed one to do it, and you can't say, well, it was a public facility. So, I know we get into that with signs. Communities have tried to say with signs that, if you, it's a public sign, so we can treat it differently. So I'm just, there's other, because you'd have to grant a lot of waivers here, and when you do that, you just open up the door for some other things you might not have anticipated. So.
Because our ordinances still apply.
Yes. You can grant waivers, and regardless of whether the building's here or the building's there, they're gonna get waivers. They're gonna have to have waivers. I mean, what you try to do is limit the number of waivers, and you got to think about what those waivers are. And the biggest concern I've got in terms of future development, obviously the access points are an issue, but the bigger concern is the loading, unloading area, and differentiating that between this and commercial properties. Because, like, for example, I know I review a lot of drive-through windows, and we always tell them, not that you want them in the downtown area, but we always tell them you have to put it on the back side. You can't put it out in front where it's going to be visible to the road. And you could get somebody coming in with a fast food restaurant further down the block, they want to put their drive-through window out on the road, and you say no, and they're going to say, well, you allowed them to do their job out here. And they're different, but they're similar. I just want you to be aware of, some of the things that if you like this design and you want to go with that, just be aware that there are implications, there are things that come up related. And I totally recognize the fact that they're trying to deal with the interior and how it's going to operate, which is also an important point. I don't need to, to belittle that or make it sound like it's not important, because it is important. It's just that we have other things that are not related to this project that we have to think about in the future that happen. And you do set a precedent with some of the decisions that you make.
Mr. Chair. Wouldn't this all be mitigated if this was community use zone?
Still,
If it's a community use, then a drive-through couldn't come in and use that zoning because it's only for public use. So that would be the differentiation there.
but you're dealing with, unless you created a whole new set of setbacks and requirements for a separate district.
But I thought we were looking at possibility to, after we're doing D3 for this for now, but then looking at the possibility in the future of rezoning community use and having all of those setbacks and all those things defined in the community use zone. And a drive-through, a loading dock, none of those things could be used in a community use zone by very virtue of the fact that it's CU.
So you're saying basically if we allow those things to occur in the community zoning district, that it would just apply to that district and not to everywhere else?
That's what I think, if that's what we attach to that particular.
You could certainly try to do something like that. Whether or not that would hold up if somebody sued you because you wouldn't allow them to put their drive-through in the front yard.
I'm just confused. I mean, there's all kinds of things we can't do right now because it's industrial zone, so we have to change it like E3.
Yeah.
So why would we not be put in the exact opposite situation if we zone as CU, where there's all kinds of things you can't do in a CU? I'm confused why there's this dichotomy there.
Well, and basically what ends up happening is when folks challenge you on something like that, and they say, well, you allowed it there, but you didn't allow there, you say, yeah, but that's a community use district, and blah, 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 we have different regulations in there. Yeah, you can make that argument, and I'm not an attorney, but basically, what they would argue is that you're circumventing the ordinance where everywhere else in the community where you don't allow those things to do happen because you created a community use district.
But I thought the entire purpose of community use district was so that we would have things that were amenable to public and community use.
No, you're absolutely right, but that doesn't mean that, I mean, even though they'd like to see this laid out like this, that doesn't mean that's the only way to lay it out. So the community use district isn't intended to do things differently than you can do elsewhere in the city. It's intended to allow you to be more flexible and combine community uses together. It doesn't guarantee you that you can lay things out totally differently than you allow elsewhere in the community.
Well, I would figure that the PUD allows us to lay things out regarding this particular property for the merits of this plan.
Yes.
Whereas the community use allows us to say, at a different level, these kind of things are allowed in this kind of area, and these kind of things are not allowed.
Right.
Vis-a-vis no drive-through restaurants, no factories with loading docks. We cover both with the two things.
Right. But I'm just saying that you could run into a situation where if you, from a design point of view, not the uses, when you deal from a design point of view, if you're allowing things in your community use district that you don't allow anywhere else in the community, and things that could be perceived as being self-serving, you might run into problems with that.
We would argue that it's community use. No, that's why.
Yeah,
Will that hold
Well,
up, is what he's saying.
Well, everything's a challenge. I mean,
Right.
people can challenge anything. They probably
Right.
would have to.
Right. But you also try to do things in such a way that you're not differentiating between public and what private folks do. You want to maintain, regardless of whether it's a front loading area. You know, you don't want to say, okay, you have to screen your mechanical units in every other district, but we don't have to for the community. We don't have to screen. There's that fairness test.
So that's why in approving it, you would say why you're approving it for this particular reason. So if it came back, you could say, well, for these points A, B, C, and D, this is why it was approved. Your points don't match up or are not contingent upon your property that it would be feasible to do the same thing. Plus, for the community, you made the argument, that's why you would agree to it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can almost make the argument.
We can say this is a side entrance to, not a front.
It's on Main Street. Since that is the first thing they see when they come into the business district, that's not the best side of that building. A parking lot and a drive-through. Couldn't you just flip the insides and then put it straight with the Main Street?
We'd have to figure out a new entrance system.
If you just flip the floor plan like this, and then you could have your things off on Maple Street, your drive-through. And then it would be part of the parking lot, so it wouldn't affect the.
You got people driving through while you got people walking to get into the building.
They'd be coming off Main Street to the main entrance if it would turn this way onto Main
Where they're
Street.
gonna park in front.
Why do they have to park in front? We don't allow parking in front for businesses. The ordinances don't.
Where are they gonna park?
In back. If you move the building this way, then you'd have parking you could put along the side and then down the back.
If I'm following correctly, you're telling me they're gonna park in the back and walk around to the front to get in.
No.
You know, you have two.
You have two entrances.
Well, what we call the side for the deliveries and the drop-off, that's just a strictly a service entrance.
Then that shouldn't be the first thing we see when we drive into town.
That's why it looks so nice.
Terry,
It's
my take on the delivery thing, they're not talking tractor trailers or whatever, so if we put that in the verbiage that it says vans or personal vehicles, nothing, no tractor trailers or whatever for drop off, that be a way around that.
But it's following the ordinances that we have. And it could put the city in jeopardy of being called into court if we had another business come in and they want to put a drive in the front to
This
unload
isn't a
things.
business, this is a public use.
it doesn't make any difference,
This is
but I understood it, but I
Here's how it's zoned.
Isn't that the case for any PUD? I mean, a lot of developments do PUDs that allow you to have smaller lot sizes, smaller road, because the idea is to try to preserve as much wetland and open space as possible. So anytime you do a PUD where you're not following your ordinances, which is the whole point of PUD, I guess then you're setting yourself up for litigation anytime you develop a PUD. And if you think of it that way, every time you do a PUD, you're setting yourself up for litigation.
I'm just sitting here and going through my mind is a new public library, awesome, everybody wants it, okay? Everybody does want it, but we have to be careful that we don't just give, I mean, we can't just let you do everything you want, you know, the way you want to do it. You know, just because you want it, it's not going to happen. We have to follow things because, and we're trying to figure it out. That's why we keep hashing it over. You wonder why we're doing it, and say, this is ridiculous, and it's taking so long. It's hashing it because we have to make sure that we follow certain guidelines and rules so we don't get into trouble, and we can get what the community wants.
The last thing we want to do is.
Right, so that's why we ask questions, that's why it's taken us so long, that's why, you know, we bring up questions, because we did not at first understand that there were going to be deliveries there, which is not a big deal, there's not tons of deliveries, but it is a delivery. So we just have to, we got to find out how to, that's why we talk. That's why we're asking questions, because we have to find the way to do it where we're not going to be in trouble in the future.
All good.
Right.
still a safety issue.
Right. And that too. I mean, we have, that's why we're talking about it, that's why we have to hash it over. So we appreciate your patience. But we gotta kind of meet in the middle too a little bit.
But that's assuming, you know, Cedar Springs is my hometown. We wants the very best for Cedar Springs also. We're not gonna put some shack up or do something that's gonna be derogatory towards Cedar Springs in any way, form, shape, or matter. The library, interestingly enough, was jump started off, Dwayne got involved, thank God for us, got involved with this off the prints in 2007 that had the library designed and built on an angle on that corner. So what he did was not to change anything, but just to enhance what we're doing. And what we've done is taken a master plan that says enhance our natural resources. It's angled the way that it is because it's going to have a patio overlooking Cedar Creek and the fountain and the rain gardens, that kind of stuff off the backside, off that meeting room also. That's why you don't want to flip it, because then you put the meeting rooms up front, which takes everything out away from it. The other aspect of it is that building on an angle, I find it interesting that David put welcome to Cedar Springs on the north side of his building, and if we put the library up the corner, that's going to disappear. That was done on the premise that as you come down, that building of the library is on an angle that you can see that welcome to Cedar Springs from the White Pine Trail and from Main Street as we're coming south into town. So there's some things going on that side of it. The other has, I guess that's all I got written down. I can see what's going on, that's my brain works. Like I said, we want what's the very best for Cedar Springs, and we want a class-looking act also in every way, form, shape, or matter of what we're doing. And you know, I don't think it's a matter of hashing things up too much. Yeah, there are codes and whatnot, yes, there's no doubt about that. But please know that as we're working on this stuff also, we are thinking of Cedar Springs, we're thinking of the master plan that you guys have laid out in the past. How do we enhance that? What do we do with that to make those things come to fruition? So.
Yes.
In 2007, the building was kitty corner so that it faced the corner of Maple and Main. It wasn't turned this way.
It was on an angle. It was on an angle to Main Street.
But it was like
The other way.
the other way.
The building runs, if I can, I'll just right here. Right here, here we go. Main Street, Maple. It's that like this right here.
Yeah.
And all this now says like this right here. The original prints, take a look there in the library. Because like I said, it's that just exactly on that angle across that corner.
I know, I started
So-
this, I was on the board. So was I.
So why can't the entrance come in on Main, turn it the way you had it there originally back in 2007?
Yeah.
The entrance come in Main and go out Maple
Yeah.
around the front.
That would work.
Why does it have to be turned the other way
Yeah.
where you're coming in and out on that? Why can't it come in Main, go out Maple, and the building facing that corner?
Well, most all of the traffic's gonna be, correct me, Dwayne, oh, here's the parking lot here, so most all the traffic's gonna be off the secondary street, off of Maple, not off of Main Street coming in and out. Whereas before, with the Circle Drive, you're gonna have traffic turning left or right into this way here, now this way here, the parking lot here, people come in and exit in and off of Maple Street. There's a service drive on the north side, which is very restricted traffic, but general public is on the south side.
Big traffic's off Maple to help keep that.
So most traffic will be off Main Street.
You're saying there'll be more traffic, more parking, the people that are parking, and going into the library, there'll be more traffic there than there will be in the drop-off.
Correct.
Yes.
That's the whole reason that's on that side.
And if things go all the way that we think, we're probably gonna have to look at diagonal parking from the library down all the way to White Pine Trail, so for more parking down through that whole area. When we have concerts and we have,
No, I said, is there enough room to do diagonal?
You have to change curves.
yeah. I think it's stuff I don't have to think about.
That's down the road. Anything else?
You're still losing me as far as what I suggested, the entrance coming off Main going out Maple. It's one-way traffic, you got your drop box there. Where's the extra traffic? It's in and out, you got your traffic coming in Maple for all your people that are going in the library. Where's the extra traffic? That's your drop box. You still keep your Sun-Edgar building, you still keep movement through the library. You use your delivery off Maple. It's just drop box going in and out there. And then you have very limited traffic in front of the building except for drop box.
Which doesn't comprehend.
I'm just looking at the drawing and it's like, I can't go in and out this way. Yeah, come in here, come out this way. And your drop box is still, in the front part, is this way. And everybody's going out this way. And your delivery can still come in this way, you don't need any deliveries coming through there. And then you only got 50 cars being dropped off in the box. Well, I was going down here, but, so your building's going this way. The building's going this way, you still have your drop box here. Your entrance is coming in this way and going out this way. So this is here one way.
Well, that there, is too close to the point.
Well, you can go back a little. You got all this space right here.
They're not, you gotta come in like this.
Well, even if you had your entrance here, slide the building back.
There's one thing.
Well, how far back can you go? Well, you're in part of the building, so. Well, if your floodplain is this supposed to be the back end of it, so can you go up just to like here, this angle, put your entrance right here, you got just enough so it catches corner. Then you come in, you drop, everyone's exiting over here, your van deliveries can be over here. Yeah, obviously, to be on the previous side. Parking, I don't know where it's at. Whether one building at the same or in town or every other But they're just going to be saying it's internal thought. They're actually going to go there and then the building's turning this way. This side of the building or the back side?
But what I'm saying is, before they put this building together, then you have like this little money for ourselves.
And I think if the building's facing that way, you have the sign in the front, and then you have the sign on the side of the building coming from the north. You can see that right on the side of the building. So then you have the line. What happens when the door gets busy around, or it's nice library, you don't have to do it. Really? You got a brewery, this one, you got, there was a nice sign. Well, but then again, you're setting a precedent for anybody else. Once you say, we can, we'll only one small band twice a week, and the library says, oh, we got a bigger band coming out, they have to come all the way back and say, we can't do that, well, we can't do that, so when we're put in a position, that's why we have to
Mr. Chairman, we have a meeting, what are we doing here? Wait, we're waiting for us to do it, about something?
Is that the drawing?
That's the
Or is that what was there?
No, that's just something.
It's what was on the board.
Okay, I need a drawing.
Is there a monthly report?
Wait.
Dwayne or Jesse?
Good drawing, Carl.
You want me to know for the layout of the building?
Okay, can you draw like the street, the weight, and the way you got the building?
Is there a reason that-
And kind of.
It's bad.
Teacher out here.
I'll clean it.
I'm gonna go off memory here, which isn't good. That's the entrance. That's the multi-purpose room or community room. That's a classroom. This is the workroom. And this is where the drop-off is. The desk is up here, right off the entrance. There's an entrance there. This is office area, I believe. Oh, kitchen. And mechanical.
I'm sorry, what did you say C and M were? Classroom?
Classroom, multi-purpose, workroom,
Okay, thank you.
kitchen, mechanical. Some of that mechanical, we're gonna work up in the attic though. We decided, I didn't like them outside, and I don't think you do after listening, or like them on the roof, I don't like them up there either. So we're gonna work on something up inside, but we gotta have an access. So, in order to get this to work with this room, we played with it up here, and it's moving books everywhere. And this way, everything, the workroom is right here where they bring in the deliveries. This would be the delivery port. And this was like the employee entrance, and had a porch over that. Again, that's why we tried to make this really with 4 fronts on it. Between out here is the patio, and here's the creek. And again, we wanted that to look out that way through this multi-purpose room and the classroom, so that they had those views. And to get the drop-off to work, we didn't want to get that traffic mixed with the entrance traffic. I mean, everybody's here is concerned, we are too, about people's health and their well-being. To me, everything I kept hearing was mixing those two, and I don't think that's a good idea. I think you want to keep them separate, so that's where we came up with this drive, and it works out that they can do their drop-off, which must be here, whatever there, and it's right directly at that workroom. We did the same thing when I was on the Stolen Plan Commission with Meyer, and helping them with their bottle deposit returns. They wanted to do a whole separate room. Made 0 sense where you came in and people could get mugged or whatever, because that happens a lot in Cedar. But anyways, you know, we were trying to think of their safety, so we wanted them all to come in through the front with that particular deal, and we helped them work things through, and it works. But we had to understand how they worked. You know, we had to make it work to where their workers, it wasn't making a big inconvenience, and they had to truck those empties halfway across the store. And this is kind of the same deal here. We're trying to make it work for the employees and the function for the public so that they have easy in and easy out.
Okay, based on the drawing, couldn't the kitchen and mechanical go where the workroom is, the workroom go where the kitchen and mechanical is, and the drop-off in where the entrance is, so people could be coming in and dropping off books at the same time?
That's the problem. You've got people walking in the main part here, now you've got cars driving up to drop off books. Who has the right of way? Biggest. Now you've got cars crossing, a lot of people coming in. This way it separates them. That was the whole reason behind this. Well, not the whole reason, but the function of it. But it does separate the car traffic, the drop-off, for the books from the main entrance.
Yes.
So based on what Donna said, 15 books in there, some people might have more than one book. Let's say there's 10 people bringing a book in during the day. Is there any business on Main Street that gets more than 10 customers per day? Do we ever have a problem? Do we ever have a problem worrying about traffic for 10 people going into any business? We just had PAC guys here with 200 employees. We didn't change how you get in and out of West Street because all of a sudden there's 200 employees. I think we're wasting a lot of time over 10 people. Not that anybody's not important, but 10 people going into there a day is not a big deal to me. I don't know about you. I hope businesses get more than 10 and we don't worry about somebody getting killed going into the Cedar Cafe or the Cedar Pub.
Okay,
It just doesn't happen, I don't think.
what if there was not an actual, like, when I take my movies back to Family Video, I have to park in a parking space and walk it up and drop it off.
Exactly.
So,
How do you like that?
I don't mind it, because then it tempts me to have to go back in and get another one. I'm already out.
There's still a storm in there, a rainstorm or a snowstorm in there. Then how do you like it?
Same thing, I mean, if I'm already on my cart, then I might as well pick up 2 more.
Or our 8-year-old.
I was gonna say, you're young, Bryce is a lot older. But, we thought of all this, at least we like to think we did. Not to say that we're perfect and we didn't miss something, and all this is good. And it's trying to get everybody on the same page to understand where we started 2.5 years ago.
I'm going the opposite of what you just said, okay? We get 2 deliveries a week, and we get 10 drop-offs a week. Why can't we have it all in the back? You're talking very minimal traffic.
In the
So,
back,
yeah, so why can't both the entrance,
what's the back?
Right there.
There is
let's
no
flip it, no, I want to flip it. I still want to flip it,
Well, this is our patio,
so put that in the back corner.
but we want it to overlook the creek.
Okay, so you're still flipping it. Flip it completely,
Like that?
no, so that it's facing the corner.
Parallel with the Main Street.
No, not parallel. You're facing the corner.
Going the other angle.
Yep. So your meeting room and everything's still in that back corner, instead of, maybe you're going off the side, and maybe you need to adjust your rooms just a little bit.
Talking about
So if
having
you
it
bring this end up here, the
Nope,
conference room's looking at the brewery.
the other way.
They're going this way.
Yep.
So now they're facing Main Street.
Why can't you just adjust your meeting room and your conference room just a hair, and adjust the library just a hair, so it's switched around a little bit? That's all I'm saying. Just move the inside just a little bit, so your meeting room's off the back corner, and you're still facing out.
So in the master plan where it says enhance our natural features, that's only on paper.
No, I'm still saying you're gotta be going off the back, it's just a different angle is all. You're just changing your angles is all.
So you're flipping this and putting the patio out here, this corner would be where the new patio would be. Because you're flip-flopping the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, it sure blocks a lot of views.
Well, not necessarily that corner, it could be down towards the road more.
Because if you're at the corner now, you can't see anything. The amphitheater will be totally hidden.
They can south of that building, it'll all be open to the trail and the
You guys,
boardwalk and everything.
this is such a big lot. I don't understand how we can't make this work where it's not,
That's a big building.
well, it's not gonna take up that much of a lot.
Well, there's also, there's a fire barn still there.
Yeah.
They can't
We're trying to work
just
around
leave
that,
it
too.
there without running to that fire barn because we don't have that roof yet. In the orientation you're describing there, you're putting it in the fire barn, I think.
Correct. Yeah, that would bring it up into here.
Which is where you're planning on having parking.
We have room right now to get it in there. Even some temporary around the fire barn. in the meantime.
So I can't the parking go in the back of the building anymore. I mean, I'd love to just completely redesign it, but.
You gotta look at the elevations. We're working with topos and fill and trying to keep as minimal fill as possible. And trying to stay as far out of the 100-year floodplain as possible. We have a little corner right now in the 100-year floodplain with everything. I mean, but, so,
But you're changing the floodplain.
what's that?
You're changing the floodplain.
Yes, we're doing a little bit with it, not very far. We're about, I think, what Paul said, a foot. At, the actual base of the floodplain. The elevation that is.
Well, I've been in business servicing information for 48 and a half years. And over the years, we've worked back and forth with the town. Yeah, sometimes you have to do things a little bit differently. But the town has always worked with us. I think it's been the benefit of all of us.
And it goes back to what you said, we weren't involved in all the meetings you guys have had and why you did what you did, and so now we're looking at it going, well, you could do this and that, and you probably already discussed why or why you wouldn't, but we're stumbling upon it as we go along, and so, I mean, I mentioned it before, that for the meeting, it's going to be.
In terms of the premium that you're putting on the 10 or 12 cars that are gonna drive through there, 12 counting the delivery truck, versus the delivery truck crossing 60, 70, 80 people throughout the day that are walking, and you have to value one or the other, all the one. We value the delivery truck going there rather than about people.
You wanna keep them separate.
And we're trying to keep what you're saying, but also try to follow the ordinance, so, I mean, because we're gonna be the ones called back into play, why did you do this and why can't we? So it's not that we're trying to not work with you, but we're trying to cover everything, you know what I mean, so.
And classroom was put on also in the back corner over there, by the way she sets away from Main Street, is the thought is that schools are looking for alternative sites to offer classes for credit recovery. And so anytime you can work collaboratively between schools and communities, there's a lot of money starts opening up that becomes available to both community and the school. So that's the reason for the classroom that would see about 20 to 25 kids on computers, which is what people do now. So that's kind of, by putting it in the back corner, once again, I don't know about you guys, but some of those kids get a little bit distracted sometimes. So it gives us a little bit of a quieter spot off the street.
There's been a lot of thought put into gotta get you up to our speed here, and that's what we're doing this for, and I'm fine with it
I
here.
think part of the problem was that the CBDT didn't meet with the library board either, meet with the planner and look at the ordinances before they started planning all these things. And I think a lot of the problems could have been avoided if they had. And Donna also,
Planning is just somebody's idea. That's all
she
it
goes
is.
by the
Nice to know I went to school for 6 years to just, to come up with somebody's idea.
And Donna also said that there would be more traffic. And if people understand that they can, instead of walking into the library to bring their books back during the day, how many people come back to bring books during the day? Those people are gonna be driving through that drive-through,
I think most
because it's
people,
gonna be easier.
I think most people will be coming here, because if they're bringing books back, they're coming in to get more books. So I still think this is,
Too, after work and after hours and right before.
I think that's really
You
more
said
what
only
that
10.
is.
You said only 10 or 12.
Yeah, but you said that there would be more, but people do, drive through after hours and before we're open and things like that as well.
Okay, so that would be more traffic they would not park and get out of their car, they would be going through this drive-through, is what I'm trying to say.
But kind of at off hours,
So is that all
not
hours?
really open, there wouldn't be a lot of people from the.
Well, from the traffic study, there's a lot of traffic right up until the wee hours of the morning. From 1 o'clock, I have it here somewhere. But I think there'll be a lot more people that instead of bringing a book into the library, they will be going through that drop-off.
Right, we hope so, that's what it's there for.
From midnight until 3 o'clock in the morning is a good time to do it. From then on, you're out of luck. There's a lot of traffic.
I'm on Main Street every day of the week, and there isn't any time I can't get across it. And I know you've got to check your options, and that's good.
I just want to be able to support the fact that we went by the ordinances if we ever get hauled into court. And
The whole point of the QG is that you don't follow all the ordinances, otherwise why would you get a QG?
but we're talking about minor changes, not major changes to an ordinance that said on Main Street, all the buildings have to be up along the road.
That's in a B2.
But that's
not
in
a
the
B3.
B2.
This is a B3.
This is a B3. You have all the protection you need, you just need to convince yourself you have it.
We won't be here when they sue us anyway.
The taxpayers will be paying for it.
Well, I heard you, I might be. Mr. Chair, I mean, I don't have a problem personally with the angle of the building or even having a little bit of parking, because everything north of Maple has parking in front of the buildings. The maintenance place, the Wesco, and all of them going north. But I just worry about more traffic coming onto Main Street. Because I know there are times where it can literally take you 10 minutes to get across Main Street. But if you make it so it's like an after hours drop off, so people are not coming in there before 7 o'clock, so like after 7 it kind of slows down more.
I don't know how many stipulations you can put on it.
I don't know, I just,
Remember when 130 used to come down the Main Street of Cedar Springs?
Oh, yeah.
Jerry and I was just talking about that earlier, when you had the stoplight there and it held up all the way through.
There's nothing
Out by
compared to
the
that.
expressway, that's traffic.
But if you're trying to turn left or right out of this Circle Drive, or you're trying to turn left or right out of Maple, I mean, it's no difference. You're still going to be turning onto the Main Street. So as far as like having to wait, you're going to wait the same amount of time off Maple as you're going to wait off Circle Drive.
I think that Jerry's idea of it being, can only turn right or whatever is probably,
I don't see any big issue with that. That they have to
Let's get people like paying.
turn.
Turn only. Like a little curve.
the curb, yeah, when you
Put a pork chop.
Actually force them to get the turn.
They call it a pork chop.
What's your?
Yeah, I'm happier with that, but not having it, because you got a car there and a car there, and they're both wanting to go the same way.
I guess like 10 vehicles a day, it's not.
Remember, there used to be
Backwards.
3 or 4 driveways there.
yeah, I see that,
So we're really only talking about one now.
Three houses
It's
in
one way.
And the clarification on the B3 does not require the building fee?
I have to look at, I have to go back and look. I don't have the ordinance right
Part of
now.
the PUD to write that?
What's that?
Is that part of the PUD to write that?
The way the way the PUD ordinance is written, if you look at the first paragraph there, it does say that the intent of the PUD is not to avoid ordinance requirements. It's to provide flexibility, but the purpose isn't to avoid ordinance requirements.
So then we would have to know for sure what the B3 calls for as far as building orientation.
Well, regardless of the building orientation, I mean, it's just, you've got other issues that you're dealing with the loading in the front yard.
That's the only other one that I'm seeing though, right?
Side yard.
No, that's a front
There's
yard.
loading in the front.
No, it's a front yard. For zoning purposes, it's a front yard.
What was that? You can say no semi-parking, no semi-delivery
This is just a
unit.
four-wheel van, right?
But what if it gets bigger and you get more books and you have other deliveries? It could.
And we're gonna build a bigger library in a different location.
There's a dream.
Instead of getting a bigger vehicle.
No, they come every day a week.
So they might come 5 days instead, in the small
Not
vehicle.
that big. Never come.
Because a van's really not any bigger than any other vehicle that be coming through there.
Comments will be totally confused here, do you have what you need to do?
No, I'm very clear on, I'm very clear. I just need to know what you're directing me to do. What you're, you have my recommendation, I'm not changing it. You have to do what, I mean, you're the decision maker. You have to decide what you want to do.
Are we supposed to make a motion as to?
Just decide on how you want to.
Yeah, so we take an extra month, yeah.
Well, are we deciding on whether we're going to be able to move forward with the PUD? Because the site development plan is a little bit different too. There's kind of two issues here. So the PUD, we're going to move forward with the PUD, and we have to determine what the layout is going to look like. And the site plan is.
That's what I assumed that we're just talking about.
No, the preliminary plan is a part of your submission, or the application. It goes, because what happens is then once the property is rezoned PUD, you're basically locking into the general layout of where things are. So in the future, you're assured that when you want to go and do things, that you've already been approved on according to the preliminary plan. So you come in with final site plans for each individual phase of the PUD. So that's why the plan goes along with it.
Well, if I hear you right now you just need direction from us to put PUD or whatever together, and then you'll bring it back to us for approval.
Yeah, it's going to have to go to the two committees and then
Right.
agree to it, but you're going to have to give direction.
Okay, so what do you need us to agree upon or to get to you?
You need to get feedback on, assuming that all the parcels that are included are acceptable, you need to get feedback, and then you need to get feedback on the preliminary PUD plan.
Which includes where the buildings are sitting.
Yes. And anything else on the site plan, you have thoughts about.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I don't think that was any properties. Anybody have any problem with the properties that we're talking about?
Well, good, but we need to check with the council on the one property.
Short of that.
Let me make a recommendation to them.
So make that a conditional on.
But again, on that piece of property, it's not that they're wanting to build on their property, it's just, they're stating having to rezone it later.
We would just on this conditional upon getting the I's dotted and T's crossed as far as the city council approval. As long as you embed that in that, I still think we cover the intent.
so I think we're all think we're in agreement on that, right, for the property, so what else do you need from us, Tom?
I'm sorry?
What else do you need from us? I think we're good on the property part, but, you know,
The preliminary PUD plan.
yeah.
Basically making it so that that, say, one-way turn.
Right turn on.
Have light turn on that one.
So, are we gonna, do you want us to vote on the whole thing, or do you want, how do you want?
Well, I think that unless anybody has any changes elsewhere on the plan, I think you just need to decide on how you feel about the building orientation.
I don't think the building should be oriented that way.
And I'm not necessarily against it, I just think there needs to maybe be a little more discussion on it.
I don't have a problem with the way the building sets now.
Like the food, how that is specifically said, I mean, that kind of thing, to see if it, for ordinance purposes, if it can be turned that way.
We still have a loading issue.
I guess in the B3 district, you might as well call it highway commercial, it's really not even written for this area of the city. It talks about the intent of the highway commercial district, or the, I'm sorry, I don't know, intent. It really doesn't match, what you've got in the B3 district, that's the problem.
Shouldn't it be downtown?
Well, no, that's the B2, but it's on the edge of downtown.
Another reason.
I mean, shouldn't it be?
Here's what it says: the district intended to provide appropriate location for businesses primarily serving the motoring public. These uses are thus encouraged to locate near major highways and interchange areas where their heavy traffic and other characteristics will not have detrimental or incompatible, or proving detrimental or incompatible with surrounding areas of the community. I mean, it's really not.
It doesn't
It
fit
doesn't
there.
apply. It doesn't even fit there. I don't know why. I don't know why it was zoned for that.
I think it used to be that.
And the road used to be that.
Before 17 miles and 131 was built. Yeah, that's something definitely worth changing. Because really, I mean, if you looked at E3 sites and entryway into the downtown area, you would allow more intensive uses in the downtown area, and you'd allow some, it'd be a transition is what it would be. So you might allow some things to happen that you wouldn't have in your downtown, but you want to transition into that.
Yeah, it's definitely a transition.
Yeah, kind of a transition, right?
Looking at it as a transition, without being at that angle, it's really not any less of a transition than what the auto repair on the other side is, just right behind their parking lot. So it's kind of like, gives you a Y as you're coming into downtown.
Of course, I don't think anybody anticipates that, 20 years down the road, you're still going to have auto repair and stuff there. Probably look at more like the Cedar Spring Brewing Company. And that seems to be the goal, entering into that kind of like complementary uses to go in there.
Right.
And that's what we're going to talk about in the master plan update. Because obviously with the stuff going on in downtown and the changes we made, now we need to talk about the areas heading in to the downtown area. How do we want to deal with the transition that's
Put a good big old bed and breakfast right there in that corner.
I view this entire area as distinct from the downtown area, distinct from the surrounding businesses, distinct from the residential areas we have around there. It is intended to be a contiguous part of the city that has its own personality, its own flavor, its own look. Distinct from the rest of these. It's supposed to look different. It's a different purpose. I don't have a problem with the fact that it looks different, because I think it should. We should know we've just crossed out of this commercial zone into this public zone. So whether or not, I think we're dancing on the half a pin here. The bigger question is, do we like what they're doing here overall? Because we're spending all this time on the library. We have this entire zone here that we're looking at. I use the wrong term, zone. But we have this entire PUD. It's not just on the library. It's on all of this, if I interpret this correctly. Does this flow together. We've spoken not at all about any of the other components of this, and focused just on does this library look good next to this building? What about this entire concept? And as an entire concept, I like this. And when we bring the PUD is there to define and define these concepts together, in my interpretation, and gives us the flexibility to do so. So, I feel.
And then back on the area where the band's gonna come with the books, to me, that doesn't meet the criteria of a loading dock. It's kind of how people are looking at this as, this is not a loading dock, this is like a parking space for employees, so don't call it loading dock, call it parking for employees, and then we don't have a loading dock, and then we don't have to address it.
Good point.
Still got the same
It's gonna be there twice, 2 times a week maybe, with 20 books or 30 books. So, it's not a loading dock like you have at CS Manufacturing or anything else. The UPS truck and the FedEx truck and they're not pulling up every day.
I'm an ill-informed public person. I don't know enough about this, shame on me. I don't know enough of the layout of the whole property, what you're gonna do with the whole property. I didn't know enough about the building design until tonight, which still I don't know enough about. So there's so much information that I don't know about this entire property that I don't feel comfortable saying, I like this layout, and this is the best layout for the community. It looks nice right now, but do I feel comfortable saying this is the best for the community? Absolutely not. There's too many questions still up in the air for me to say this is perfect for our community, because I don't know enough. Because this is the first I've really seen enough of this today.
I don't think any of us have put our time and our money in for any financial gain. We're trying to help our town.
I understand.
We want to revitalize Cedar Springs. We've watched it crash and burn over the last 50 years. I've been here a long time. And, we don't do something. And this is a unique area. This is supposed to have foot traffic. People coming off the White Pine Trail, off the North Country Trail, concerts, yeah. We're trying to revitalize it. We're hoping there's a lot of people down there.
If we don't know enough about it, there's been meetings for almost 2 years that have been open to the public. These guys are putting their money out here. They have a wonderful, wonderful idea for our downtown. They're not gonna do anything. This is not like somebody from outside Cedar coming in here. These are the most influential and honored and great citizens of our city here and our community trying to say, we want to do something wonderful here. I don't think they're trying to break any laws. I don't think they're trying to, I think we can find ways to make sure we're following all the things that we're supposed to be following and get it done.
And that's not what I intend.
I know,
I'm just trying to say, I don't know enough about it.
Come to their meetings once a month. They're great meetings. You hear everything. You get to talk.
It's shame on me.
No, I'm not saying shame on anybody. I'm just saying,
But
start going to them then.
we just saw this for the last 2 months. So we're just getting our feet wet. At least I am. I don't know how many more other people, but I'm just getting my feet wet and seeing this and understanding what you guys are proposing. So it's all new to me. I hear what Karma has to say. I know what our ordinances are. I'm just trying to look at this as, okay, what do we have to deal with when we go down the road here? 20 years, 30 years down the road, this is going to be a much different looking view to the downtown for all businesses. What's the impact on that? I'm not just thinking about this 2 years when you guys first took this in place. What's the impact for us 10, 20, 30 years down the road? We got more traffic. The library may grow. That whole area may change. We got to think about that, not just what you want to get right now.
We have lots of buildings that are squared up with the highway that aren't exactly moving. I mean, take a look down Cedar Springs. And, we're trying to create something different, something new, something bring people in, draw attention. Yeah, we don't want another squared up building
Can you come to the